Hey, how you doing today? I am Taquila Coleman. In today's video, I'm going to answer one of our standards question she sent in via our God Ordained Marriage website. Now, standards are those who are currently married, standing for marriage restoration. If you have a question you would like for me to answer on the channel, head over to godordainedmarriages.com, click on the tab that says Contact Us, and send me your question today. Let's read her question. Hello, I am Mary Ann in a divine separation. I learned that from you. God sent me to your channel. I had no idea what was going on in my 4.5 year marriage. So I blocked him from everything, including the phone. But we still talk about business and cases that are ongoing. So do I answer when he calls when I know it's not about business? He will call and say, I am just checking on you. I said, you can say you miss me, LOL. He was so upset that I blocked him. Do I tell him any other things I have learned or just continue to be still and pray? I have a friend and she said when she saw the counterfeit, it made her stomach cringe and said the spirit said she is envious of me. She is not cute at all and giant size. She is married as well. I asked him, what can you do with that? How can I tell if God is telling him to call? It's not every day and only in the daytime, not much at night. He is a musician and chasing gigs since he moved into an apartment. I pray that he gets no rest until he turns back to God, and he always says, I am so tired, not as young as I used to be. Thank you for your time. All right, thank you for sending in your question. So you are married and in a divine separation, and you blocked your husband on everything, including the phone. Um, and you said the time that the two of you do talk is about business and cases, and you want to know, do you answer when he calls and when you know it's not about business? And he will say things like he's just checking on you. So my job isn't to tell you what to do. Okay. This is your marriage. You have to begin to take a look at, everything that is going on. You have to begin to ask yourself, do I understand what divine separation means? Right. You have to ask yourself a series of questions, I've been answering my husband's call, but is it changing anything about, you know, our marriage? Is it drawing us closer together? By me constantly answering my husband call, is it removing the other woman out the picture? Is it causing him to see the error in his ways? If nothing is changing, then that is your answer right there. Okay. Um, so I'll just say that. Now, you also went on to say, you asked the question, do I tell him any other things I have learned or just continue to be still and pray? Well, the things you are learning, you don't have to necessarily tell your husband, I'm learning this, I'm learning that. Just show him, in your behavior, the things you are learning. So, for example, if you are learning accountability, then hold him accountable. If you are, now learning how to establish boundaries, right? You're learning about boundaries. Okay, start setting boundaries where boundaries need to be set at, in your marriage and with your husband, you know, things of that nature, right? If you're learning about respect, in our marriage boot camp, we taught on how to respect a man. How do you respect your husband, right? And so if this is something you're learning how to do, you just show him in your action, right? And because that this is what standing for marriage restoration means. When God tells you to stand for a marriage, right? And he's promised you restoration, God is first going to deal with you. He's dealing with you first. He wants you to change certain things. He wants you to begin to look within and take a look at yourself and see where you can improve and get better at, right? So you don't have to tell him, what you're learning. Just show him in your action. And when he see how his wife is growing and becoming better, he should want to grow with his wife. Okay. It should become attractive in his eyes. Okay. And make him curious to know, what are you doing? You see what I'm saying? So just show him in your action what you are learning and how you are growing as a wife. Now, you said your friend, saw the counterfeit. It made her stomach cringe. And she also stated how the spirit said she is envious of you. Now, you went on to say she is not cute at all and giant size. She is married as well. And you ask your husband, what can you do with that? I'm going to say this, and I'm saying this with all love, but sizing up the other woman and saying to your husband, what can you do with that? That's going to keep him with the other woman. And this is why I say that, because now you just put yourself in a position of insecurity. Okay, this is how your husband is seeing you right now. So take the focus off of this other woman. We are women of God. We don't have to size up another woman. We don't have to, we don't got to size them up. We don't even have to tear them down. Okay, you just stand in your value. You stand in who God called you to be, right? You stand in your confidence, right? You don't gotta shrink down to that level where you sizing this woman up, you saying she's not cute, she's a giant size. Here's the thing that most of us miss. When husbands cheat, it's not always because he's looking for a person who has a better body or who look better than you. He might be cheating because this woman know how to respect him as a man. She's communicating a language that his wife is not communicating to him. This is what we miss when we focus on the counterfeit or the other woman. So take your attention off of this other woman, okay? And try not to approach your husband with that energy. What can you do with that? He can do a lot with it. He's been doing a lot with it. That's why he's with it. So, and I got to say this to you because, I gotta say this because the one thing I don't like is women fighting over a man. I don't like that. I really don't. When that's not even the issue. We got to deal with the problem at hand. The problem is you know there's a there's a lack of accountability that's going on in your marriage. You know, your husband stepping out, so that means he doesn't value or even honor his covenant, right? The problem isn't this woman. The problem is going on within, okay? And so again, take the focus off of this woman. You're a woman of God, okay? You stand in your value, you stand in your confidence, okay? And you don't have to, try to, break this woman apart, okay? But you also ask, how can I tell if God is telling him to call? Well, that's not for you to know. See, this is what I'm saying. When God tells us to stand for these marriages, it is not our responsibility to figure out what God is saying to our spouses. Your job as his wife is to know God's voice for yourself so that when God begins to speak to you, you hear God and you're able to respond to whatever God is telling you to do. And then let me just say this, because that is your husband. And when it's time for when God wants your husband to come back home, He's gonna send him back home. But before he send him back home, he's gonna let you know. He might give you a dream. You might hear it. You might just like have a knowing in your spirit, like my husband about to come home. God about to send him home, right? So God would He would make it known and clear to you that, okay, I'm sending him back home. You can talk to him, you can open up communication, okay? But it's not our responsibility to try to figure out how is God speaking to him. How would I know when God is telling him to call? You won't know. You will only know when he show up and call. Um, and then you went on to say how you've been praying for God to give him no rest until he turns back to God. And he always says, I am so tired. Yeah. So, yeah, he is getting tired. And I will say this, just from reading this, if he's chasing gigs, one of the reasons why, this adultery is taking place is because your husband more than likely don't know who he is as a man or even a husband. And he's not financially secure yet. This is why he's chasing gigs. A man, he gets his identity from his work, you know. So, if your husband is chasing gigs, then that means the money is not stable. It's not where it needs to be, which means he's not going to be able to be a great husband to you. Okay. So, this is a prayer point as well, This is a prayer point, and this can also be God trying to get your husband attention, because somewhere in this, your husband probably, turned money into like an idol, and so God is like, okay, I'm about to take some of this away from you to get your attention, just to get your husband back in right standing. Okay, so listen, like I said, when he tell us to stand for these marriages, you know he's going to deal with us first. Okay, he's going to deal with us. He's looking for us to change. He's looking for us to show up in our marriage differently. Okay, he's looking for us to learn, what it means. The Bible commands wives to respect your husband, and it also commands husbands to love your wife, right? It doesn't matter. Now, here's the thing. I'm about to say something that's going to blow your mind. Even with your husband committing adultery, God is still expecting for you to behave in respectful ways towards your husband. And I know that's hard to understand. That's hard to hear, because you're like, how can I respect this man and he's, cheating? He's committing adultery. But that's where your obedience comes in to God, because whatever you do to your husband, you're doing it to God, right? So, just understand, like I said, God, he's going to deal with us first. He's looking for something about us to change first, and then he began to work on the prodigals. Okay, so that is my advice. I am Taquila Coleman. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a positive comment. I'll talk to you all real soon. Take care.